Fear. You know the feeling. The pounding in your chest. The shallow breath. The voice in your head whispering, "Don't do it. Stay safe. Stay small." Fear shows up when you stand on the edge of change. It shows up when you're about to take the leap. It shows up when you're closest to the life you want. And here's the truth most people never understand. Fear is not the signal to stop. Fear is the invitation to start. Most people believe the myth that courage means the absence of fear. They imagine strong men and women who wake up without doubts, without nerves, without hesitation. They think heroes are fearless. But that is a lie. Every person you admire, every champion, every leader, every creator, felt fear. The difference was not the absence of fear. The difference was what they did in spite of fear. So here is the refrain you must burn into your mind: feel the fear and move anyway. Because most people let fear control them. They let it dictate their decisions. They let it shrink their world. They let it steal their future. Fear says, "Don't speak up." And they stay silent. Fear says, "Don't try." And they stay stuck. Fear says, "Don't risk it." And they live their entire life inside invisible walls, never realizing those walls were paper thin. But that person, the one you are called to be, sees fear for what it is: a compass, a signal, a teacher. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. Fear means you're on the edge of growth. Fear means you're facing something that matters. Fear means you are alive. Think about it. The moments that shaped you most, were they comfortable? Were they easy? Or were they filled with trembling hands, racing thoughts, and the decision to step forward anyway? Fear was there. But so was growth. Fear was present. But so was courage. Most people run. They spend their entire lives avoiding fear, and in doing so, they avoid life. They hide in routines. They cling to comfort. They stay small. And then they wonder why they feel unfulfilled. They wonder why their dreams are still dreams. They wonder why their life feels empty. It is because they bow to fear. Say it again: feel the fear and move anyway. Here's the paradox: fear will never disappear. You cannot wait it away. You cannot pray it away. You cannot bargain with it. The only way to change your relationship with fear is to act in its presence. Action is the cure. Movement is the antidote. Look at a child learning to swim. At first, the water feels terrifying. They cling to the edge. They cry. They shake. But with each tiny push, with each second longer away from the wall, their body learns. Their courage grows. One day, they're swimming across the pool. Did fear vanish first? No. Action came first. Confidence followed. This is how fear works. Waiting for it to vanish is a trap. Moving through it is the way forward. Most people will never learn this. They will waste decades waiting to feel ready. They will waste their lives trying to eliminate fear before they move. And because of that, they will never live. But that person, you, can learn the secret today. Every great story you've ever admired is the same story. Ordinary person. Overwhelming fear. Decision to act anyway. Transformation. The pattern is eternal. And now it is your turn. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your assignment. Fear has always been here. It sat beside the first hunter staring into the dark forest. It whispered to the first sailor who lost sight of the shore. It clung to the first inventor daring to try something the world had never seen. Fear has never left humanity, but neither has courage. Courage has always risen where fear stood. And every step of progress in history, every invention, every discovery, every revolution, was born not in the absence of fear but in defiance of it. Most people miss this. They think fear means stop. They think fear means danger. They think fear means weakness. But the truth is sharper, deeper, undeniable. Fear means importance. Fear means growth. Fear means you found the edge where life begins. Say it with me again, feel the fear and move anyway. Let it echo inside you. Let it become the refrain that drowns out excuses. Let it ring louder than the whisper of doubt. Fear is not the signal to retreat. It is the signal to advance. Because the very things you want most, confidence, freedom, love, achievement, are always guarded by fear. The treasure you seek is behind the dragon you fear to face. Look around your own life. How many times have you said no because you were scared? How many times did you stay quiet when you wanted to speak? How many times did you shrink back when you wanted to rise? How many dreams died in the shadow of fear? Now imagine if, in those moments, you had chosen differently. Imagine if, instead of retreat, you had chosen advance. Instead of silence, you had chosen voice. Instead of hiding, you had chosen action. Where would you be today? Who would you have become? That regret you feel right now, that sting in your chest, that is the cost of fear. And you will keep paying it until you choose a new response. Most people numb themselves. They distract. They scroll. They hide in entertainment. They drown the voice of fear with noise, but the noise never satisfies. Because deep down, they know the truth, the life they want is on the other side of fear. That person, the one who rises, chooses differently. They don't fight fear with distraction. They don't wait for fear to leave. They don't beg to feel ready. They move. Small steps. Micro victories. One act of courage at a time. And each act rewires their identity. Each act makes fear smaller. Each act makes them stronger. Think of your own heart right now. You already know the thing you've been avoiding. The conversation. The risk. The dream. The decision. You know it. And you know fear is what's holding you back. So ask yourself, what if today you stepped into it anyway? What if today you felt the fear and moved? Here is the truth, the longer you wait, the bigger fear becomes. The longer you avoid, the stronger it feels. Fear grows in shadows, but fear shrinks in light. The moment you act, fear loses power. So don't wait. Don't postpone. Don't delay. Say it once more, with conviction this time, feel the fear, and move anyway. This is the foundation of everything that follows. This is the anthem of transformation. This is the compass for the journey ahead. Fear is not your wall. Fear is your doorway. And today, you choose whether to walk through. Fear is universal. Every human being feels it. But what separates most people from that person, the one who rises, the one who transforms, is their response. Most people let fear dictate their actions. They feel the pressure in their chest and they retreat. They feel the shaking of their hands and they wait. They let the voice of fear set the boundaries of their life. They convince themselves it's safer this way. But safety has a price: their dreams, their growth, their future. That person reacts differently. They still feel the fear. They still hear the voice. But instead of retreat, they step forward. Instead of waiting, they act. They understand the golden rule of transformation. Fear is not the end signal, it is the green light. Mini story 1. A student dreamed of becoming a writer. She filled journals with ideas, but fear whispered, "You're not good enough. People will laugh." So she never shared. Years passed. Then one day, she chose differently. She posted one short story online. Her hands trembled, her heart pounded, but she pressed publish. One post became 10. 10 became a book. Fear didn't vanish. But she moved anyway. And now she was a writer, not because fear left, but because courage stepped in. Mini story 2. A young man wanted to start a business. Fear said, "You'll fail. You'll go broke. People will mock you." So he delayed. He researched. He prepared. But really, he hid. Until one day he realized waiting was its own failure. He launched small. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And slowly, his business grew. Fear was present at every step, but so was progress. Mini story 3. A woman wanted to rebuild her health. Fear told her the gym was full of judgment, that she would be embarrassed, that she couldn't change. For months, she avoided it. Then one morning, she walked through the door. 10 minutes on the treadmill. That was all. But that single act cracked fear's shell. Weeks later, she was stronger. Months later, she was unrecognizable. Fear had screamed, but action had won. Most people wait until fear disappears. That person moves while fear screams. Say it again, feel the fear, and move anyway. Discipline versus feelings. This is where the battle lies. Most people live by feelings. When they feel confident, they move. When they feel scared, they stop. Their life is ruled by emotion. But discipline is different. Discipline says, regardless of how I feel, I will act. That person understands this. They don't need confidence to move. They build confidence by moving. Responsibility is another battlefield. Fear tempts most people to shift blame. It's too risky because of the economy. It's too hard because of my past. It's impossible because nobody supports me. Excuses feel safe. But responsibility feels powerful. That person accepts fear, but they also accept ownership. They say, "It's my life. It's my choice. It's my move." And that decision changes everything. Fear versus courage. Most people misunderstand courage. They think it means loud speeches, heroic gestures, sudden bravery. But true courage is quiet. It's personal. It's the moment you feel fear and act anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that fear will not be the driver. Consistency builds on top of this. Fear tries to knock you off track again and again. Most people give in. They say, "I'll try tomorrow." And tomorrow becomes next week. And next week becomes never. But that person builds consistency through small, fearless acts. Every day, one step. Every day, one victory. Every day, one reminder that fear has no throne in their life. And long-term vision? Fear hates vision. Fear thrives on short-term panic. Most people surrender to that. They choose comfort now and sacrifice their future. But that person fixes their eyes on what matters most. They feel fear in the moment, but they remember the bigger picture. They know that 10 years of growth is worth 10 minutes of discomfort. Most people let fear close doors. That person uses fear as a key. Fear will always test you. It will whisper at the edge of every dream. It will wait at the entrance of every opportunity. And the difference between most people and that person is not whether fear shows up. It's whether they keep moving when it does. Mini story 4, a teenager wanted to audition for the school play. She loved acting in secret, but fear told her, "You'll embarrass yourself. People will laugh." She almost stayed home. But something in her refused. She walked on stage, voice shaking, hands trembling. She didn't win the lead role. But she won something far greater, proof. Proof that she could face fear. That proof became the foundation of her confidence. Mini story 5, a father lost his job. Fear screamed, "You're a failure. You'll never recover." Most would have drowned in shame. But he chose a micro-victory, applying for one job that day. The next day, another. Day after day, small acts. Fear kept shouting, but action kept winning. Months later, he had built not just a new career but a stronger sense of resilience than ever before. Mini story 6, an athlete stood on the starting line, heart pounding so loud he thought the world could hear it. Fear said, "You'll lose. You'll choke." He could have pulled back. Instead, he sprinted forward. He didn't just win the race, he rewrote his identity. He learned that fear shows up loudest before breakthroughs. Fear is a liar, but it is also a spotlight. It points directly at the thing you must do. Most people run from that spotlight. That person steps into it. Say it with me again, feel the fear, and move anyway. Most people think fear is a signal of danger. Sometimes it is. But more often, fear is simply a signal of growth. Your brain resists change. It craves safety. It interprets risk as threat. That's why fear feels so real, even when no real danger exists. That person understands this. They separate real danger from imagined danger. They don't let their biology steal their destiny. Fear will test your responsibility. Most people let fear push responsibility away. They say, "It's too much. I can't handle it." But that person leans in. They know responsibility builds power. Every time you own the outcome, even when fear is screaming, you grow stronger. Fear will test your discipline. Most people let fear decide their habits. They quit when it gets uncomfortable. They back out when it gets hard. But discipline means doing what matters regardless of emotion. That person uses discipline as a shield against fear. Fear will test your consistency. Most people quit after the first setback. They tell themselves it's a sign to stop. But that person sees setbacks as part of the journey. They keep going, step after step, proving that consistency crushes fear over time. Fear will test your vision. Most people sacrifice the long term for the short-term comfort of avoiding fear. But that person keeps their eyes on the horizon. They endure today's fear for tomorrow's freedom. And fear will test your willingness to serve. Most people become self-centered when scared. They retreat into themselves. But that person still shows up for others, even when afraid. They understand that service pulls you out of fear. When you fight for someone else, your own fear shrinks. So here is the secret: fear will never vanish. But your relationship with it will change. The more you face it, the smaller it becomes. The more you run, the larger it grows. Fear feeds on avoidance. Fear starves on action. Most people feed fear every day. That person starves it. And now you know how. You have walked with fear your whole life. You have heard its voice in the silence. You have felt its grip when opportunity knocked. And now you know the truth: fear is not your enemy. Fear is your signal. Fear is your doorway. Most people will never understand this. They will keep waiting for fear to disappear. They will keep saying, "I'll start when I feel ready." They will waste their lives in the waiting room of fear. They will die with their music still inside them. But you can choose differently. You can choose to act while afraid. You can choose to move while trembling. You can choose to step forward while your knees shake and your voice cracks. Because courage is not found before fear. Courage is found in fear's presence. Say it again: feel the fear and move anyway. Let it become the anthem of your life. Let it echo every time you hesitate. Let it thunder every time fear whispers. Think of the lives you admire. Champions, leaders, artists, innovators. Do you think they had no fear? Do you think their path was easy? No. They carried fear with them. The only difference is that they acted anyway. They built empires with fear still in their chest. They changed the world while afraid. Fear is not the end. Fear is the beginning. Most people surrender to fear. They bow to it. They let it dictate their calendar, their choices, their future. They stay silent in rooms where their voice could change everything. They stay small in moments where growth was waiting. They stay stuck because they never learned to move through fear. That person, the one you are called to be, refuses to surrender. They see fear and they step forward. They know fear is the price of growth. They know fear is the path to freedom. They know that every victory they seek is waiting on the other side. Fear will test you every day. In conversations, in opportunities, in dreams, in decisions. And every day you will have the choice: retreat or advance. Stay small or grow. Wait or move. Most people will retreat. That person advances. Say it one more time: feel the fear and move anyway. This is how you reclaim your life. This is how you build discipline stronger than feelings. This is how you create a future bigger than fear. Step by step. Micro-victory by micro-victory. Action in the presence of fear until courage becomes your second nature. Fear will never vanish, but it will lose its grip. And one day, you will wake up and realize fear is still speaking, but it no longer controls you. That is the day you will be free. But that freedom starts here. It starts today. It starts with one decision: to act, not to wait. To move, not to retreat. To step into the fear, not away from it. The moment is here. The decision is now. Fear will not wait, and neither can you. Because every day you delay, fear grows stronger. Every day you hesitate, fear builds walls. Every day you retreat, fear steals another piece of your future. Most people will live their entire lives in those walls. They will tell themselves it's safer. They will convince themselves comfort is enough. But at night, when silence comes, they will feel the weight of regret. Regret that they never tried. Regret that they never spoke. Regret that they never stepped forward. You cannot let that be your story. Say it with me one last time. Feel the fear and move anyway. This is the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one. Between a story forgotten and a story remembered. Between a life wasted and a life fulfilled. Think of your future self. 10 years from now, looking back. Do you want them to thank you or hate you? Do you want them to whisper, "I'm proud of who I became," or cry, "Why didn't you act when you had the chance?" That choice is in your hands today. Fear is loud before breakthroughs. Remember that. The closer you are to transformation, the louder fear screams. That's not a sign to stop. That's your proof you're on the right path. Most people misread the signal. They think fear means danger, when in truth, fear means destiny. That person, the one you are called to be, sees fear and knows, this is my moment. Courage doesn't need perfection. Courage needs presence. Courage is messy. Courage is raw. Courage is action with shaking hands. But courage is what builds legacies. So let the world see you act while afraid. Let them see you stumble but rise again. Let them see you speak even when your voice cracks. Because that is how you inspire others. Not by being fearless, but by being faithful in the presence of fear. And one day, people will look at you and say, they are so strong. They are so confident. They are so fearless. And you will smile, because you'll know the truth, you were never fearless. You simply moved anyway. This is your call to action. Don't wait. Don't delay. Don't let fear steal another hour. The life you want is waiting. The dream you carry is waiting. The person you were meant to be is waiting. Be that person today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Today. Right now. Because the only way to master fear is to face it. The only way to shrink fear is to starve it with action. The only way to live is to move forward, even when afraid. So rise. Step forward. Take the leap.